Moments ago, Israel launched Operation Rising Lion, a targeted military operation to roll back the Iranian threat.
All right, folks, let's talk about Israel and Iran. These two used to be buddies before 1979. Seriously. Like actual allies ganging up against Arab countries together. Two nations playing the let's modernize the Middle East together game? Honestly, it was looking good. Well, if you ignored the fact that from day one, with the Shah acting like a superstar and Israel already playing regional sheriff, it was already a hot mess. But here we are in 2024, and it's a completely different tune. Now they spend their time lobbing missiles over the heads of their neighbors, who didn't ask for any of this crap. Iran bankrolls every group that wants Israel wiped off the map, while Israel casually bombs anything that remotely looks like an Iranian installation. A real love story gone wrong, you know?
Sur les sites nucléaires iraniens.
De la fumée noire s'échappe d'un site nucléaire.
Derrière moi, on voit l'endroit visé par les missiles ennemis. Il s'agit du site martyr d'Hamadi Roshan, l'usine d'enrichissement de Natanz. Lorsque nous avons entendu les explosions vers 4h15, nous nous sommes dirigés vers le site nucléaire.
Notre première frappe est une réussite. Nous avons touché le haut commandement, nous avons touché les principaux scientifiques impliqués dans le développement de la bombe atomique, nous avons touché les installations nucléaires, nous accumulons les succès.
L'Iran est plus proche que jamais d'obtenir une arme nucléaire. Nous n'avons pas le choix. Nous agissons contre une menace imminente et existentielle.
Except now, instead of fighting over who gets to keep the dog, they're duking it out with nuclear weapons and ballistic missiles. Romantic, right? But then, on the 1st of April, 2024, and no, this isn't an April Fool's joke, Israel shows up and straight up bombs the Iranian consulate in Damascus. And honestly, this story is about to go sideways in ways you can't even imagine. So in this complicated world of Middle Eastern geopolitics where everyone's been shooting at each other for decades over religion, territory, and oversized egos, it's vital to have someone who won't treat you like idiots. And lucky for you, that's our job. Yeah, us again. Sorry, not sorry. Here at our place, we don't have sketchy sponsors telling us what to think. No bosses dictating our scripts based on their geopolitical interests. No fanatic audience to appease. We're what you call independent media. And yeah, that still exists. Like unicorns, but less rare. By subscribing, you help us keep telling these insane stories without sugarcoating or picking sides in this permanent war of nerves. It's free, takes 2 seconds, and keeps us from ending up on the street, which would be a shame considering the show we're preparing for you. Alright, let's go back to the beginning of this love story gone wrong. Because honestly, it's worth the detour and more twisted than an American soap opera. To understand why these two countries are now fighting like drunks in a bar, we need to go back to 1979, back when we were still innocent and thought Middle East problems were just about oil and badly drawn borders. Poor us. Back then, Iran was the Shah, a guy who thought he was the Emperor of Persia, but modern version with American F-14S and delusions of grandeur. Israel was already showing off big time with its super efficient little army and its David versus Goliath complex. But hey, at least they got along. They even had military cooperation agreements. Romantic stuff, really. And then boom, Islamic Revolution in Iran. The mullahs come to power and that's when the drama starts. No more friendly arrangements. Now it's death to Israel at every official speech. Iran discovers it has a calling as Palestine's liberator. Pretty convenient when you want to expand your regional influence without looking like old-school imperialism. Israel finds itself with a new best enemy who's also developing a nuclear program. Because having neighbors who want you dead is already annoying, but when they're also playing with atoms, it gets seriously stressful. For 40 years, they play cat and mouse. Iran funds Hezbollah in Lebanon, Hamas in Gaza, and every militia willing to shout death to Israel for a small check. Israel does selective bombing, a nuclear scientist here, a military installation there. The atmosphere was tense as hell, but at least they kept up appearances. Everyone stayed in their corner and settled for proxy warfare. Iran said, "It's not me, it's my friends." Israel said, "It's self-defense," and everyone pretended to believe it wasn't a real war. Kind of like those couples who fight but still sleep in the same bed pretending nothing's wrong. But in 2024, someone decided playtime was over. And there, My friends, things escalated at an impressive speed. Everything goes to hell on the 1st of April, 2024. And again, this isn't a joke, even though we would have liked it to be. Israel, in its great wisdom, decides to bomb the Iranian consulate in Damascus. And there's the drama, well, the predictable but spectacular drama we'd all been waiting for years. The attack doesn't mess around. 16 dead, including big shots from Iran's Revolutionary Guards. Among the victims, General Mohammad Reza Zahidi. And when I say general, this isn't the guy guarding goats, this is a Quds Force commander, Iran's elite unit handling special operations abroad. Then it escalates. And by escalates, I mean Iran has a historic meltdown while Israel plays innocent like what? We just defended our security interests. The Iranians see red. Touching their consulate is like spitting on their flag in the middle of a UN General Assembly. For 12 days, the whole world holds its breath. Diplomats work overtime. Oil markets go crazy. And on social media, everyone becomes a Middle Eastern geopolitics expert. Iran prepares its retaliation in "this time we'll show them what we're capable of" mode. And then the inevitable, the 13th of April, 2024. Iran launches the first direct attack in its history against Israel, because after 45 years of proxy warfare, they had to meet face-to-face eventually. This time, the pleasantries and intermediaries are over. The attack is unprecedented. Over 300 projectiles launched from Iran, Iraq, Syria, and Yemen. Drones, cruise missiles, ballistic missiles, the entire axis of resistance arsenal mobilized for a mega-deadly fireworks show heading for Israel. Timeline of Chaos, Episode 47, 9 p.m. First drones launched from Iran, 7-hour flight to reach Israel, 11:30 p.m. Cruise missiles fired from Iraq, 1:30 a.m. Ballistic missiles leave Iran, 2 a.m. Israel activates all defenses, American, British, and French assistance, 2:15 a.m. 99% of projectiles intercepted. Sources tell us Netanyahu was in his bunker calculating his response. Well, sources about as reliable as my horoscope, but hey, we work with what we've got. Meanwhile, on the internet, it's social media apocalypse. Trending hashtags, endless threads from self-proclaimed geopolitics experts, and memes about world war starting. The internet goes crazy, as usual, while the people actually involved try not to die. Fortunately, the Israeli defense system works. Iron Dome, David Sling, Arrow, Blank, all the tech gear funded by the United States does its job. Result: one little girl injured by shrapnel, some material damage, and Iran's ego satisfied with having responded. Israel broods, because getting bombed by 300 missiles, even if most fall in the desert, looks bad for a regional military power. So the 19th of April, Israeli retaliation. Targeted strikes on Iranian air defense installations near Isfahan. Israel's subliminal message: we can strike wherever we want, whenever we want, even 1,000 kilometers from home. Iran's subliminal message: we can saturate your defenses if we really want to. Result: everyone showed their muscles, nobody really won, and the real loser is regional peace, which was already in bad shape. Okay, now that we've seen the show, let's analyze the actors in this modern tragedy a bit, because honestly, it's fascinating to see how entire countries can behave like teenagers in crisis. Israel is a country that grew up thinking the whole world was out to get them, and you have to say, with history, there are reasons. For them, life is a survival mode video game where they're the main character surrounded by enemies everywhere, a philosophy they share with all 12-year-olds on Call of Duty. Their absolute priority: never again, referring to the Holocaust that conditions their entire military doctrine. So whenever a neighbor develops advanced military capabilities, panic on board. They want to destroy us? We'll destroy them first. A logic of preemptive self-defense that looks suspiciously like assumed paranoia. Iran is the complete opposite, a country that thinks it's the heir to the Persian Empire and really doesn't like being surrounded by American bases. Their priority: regain their status as a regional power by kicking the Americans and their allies out of the Middle East, which is pretty noble, you might say, if you forget the methods used. For the Iranian mullahs, Israel isn't just an enemy, it's an insult. A small country created by Westerners in the heart of the Muslim world that's also more successful than them technologically and economically. Unbearable for the ego of a millennial civilization. Deep down, why couldn't it work between them? Because it was like putting a cat and a dog in the same cage, hoping they'd become friends. It was doomed from the start. Neither knows how to manage their emotions on an international scale, which is handy when you want to be a stable regional power. Israel, as soon as it feels threatened, strikes first and negotiates later. Iran, as soon as it feels humiliated, brings out the heavy artillery and grand revolutionary speeches. Decoding defense mechanisms. When things go wrong, Israel hides behind its status as a democracy surrounded by dictatorships and its Western alliances. Iran plays the anti-imperialist resistance card and champion of the oppressed Muslim world. Every time, it's the same. A minor incident that escalates because nobody wants to lose face. Israel can't let an attack pass without retaliating or risk appearing weak. Iran can't let humiliation pass without responding or risk losing credibility with its allies. Their respective friends? On the Israeli side, Americans who say, do what you want, but don't drag us into your crap while delivering weapons. On the Iranian side, Russians and Chinese who say, we support you against Western imperialism while carefully avoiding military engagement. Football field-sized egos, obviously, on both sides. Israel sees itself as the only democracy in the Middle East. Iran is the leader of the Muslim world. Hard to negotiate when everyone thinks they're the good guy in the story. They see what they want to see, period. Israel sees terrorists everywhere. Iran sees Zionist plots everywhere. Result? Every incident confirms their prejudices and justifies the next escalation. The funniest part, well, funny way of speaking, is that deep down, they're alike. Two countries afraid of disappearing, two exacerbated nationalisms, two superiority complexes compensating for existential anxieties. They're made to get along, these two, but they prefer beating each other up. Humanity in all its splendor. So who's gonna win this wrestling match between two personalities? Spoiler, probably nobody, but let's pretend it's fascinating to analyze. On one side, we have Israel with its cutting-edge technology, ultra-modern aviation, latest generation defense systems, and unwavering US support. On the other, Iran with its strategic geography, regional allies, ballistic missile capabilities, and nuclear program advancing slowly but surely, all beautiful people basically. Their weak points? Israel is a tiny country that can't handle a real long war, with a concentrated civilian population vulnerable to missiles. Iran is an economy under sanctions, with a population fed up with the regime and military infrastructure exposed to airstrikes. Classic stuff. And then there's the unpredictable stuff. A popular revolution in Iran that would change the game. An Iranian nuclear deal that would calm things down. A government change in Israel that would modify doctrine. Or a broader conflict that would set the whole region on fire. Short term, it'll be the usual circus. Controlled escalation, targeted strikes, proxy warfare, and diplomatic communiques for show. Long term, it'll be even more complicated because the underlying problem, two incompatible visions of regional order, will still be there. But beyond these two clowns, it's the entire stability of the Middle East that's at stake. Again, because when mom and dad fight, it's always the kids who suffer. Lebanon serving as playground, Syria as battlefield, Iraq as rear base, and Gulf countries watching their oil installations, wondering if they're going to explode. Evolution scenarios. The optimistic scenario. In the best of worlds, lol. A comprehensive diplomatic agreement settles disputes. Iran renounces military nuclear. Israel accepts a viable Palestinian state. And everyone lives happily eating hummus. Probability. Winning the lottery 3 times in a row. The realistic scenario? What's really going to happen is a continuation of regional Cold War with periodic hot episodes. Everyone tests the other's limits. Nobody wants total war, but nobody wants to give in either. Conflictual status quo. In short, the catastrophe scenario. If it goes sour, we get a real regional war with Iran closing the Strait of Hormuz, Israel striking Iranian nuclear facilities, allies getting involved, and oil prices exploding. Great for the world economy. And as usual, we'll learn nothing from this crisis. In 10 years, we'll have the same kind of tensions with other protagonists for the same stupid reasons. Ego, territory, religion, and chronic inability to talk normally. This story of major chaos between two oversized egos shows us once again that we're really not out of the woods when it comes to international relations. 45 years after the Iranian Revolution, these two countries continue to settle their differences with missiles and nuclear threats. But hey, who are we to judge? What we take from this mess is that in a world where everyone talks about diplomacy and peaceful conflict resolution, we're still at eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. As soon as vital interests are at stake, human nature, even at the state level, remains me first, we'll see later. And coincidentally, it reminds us of all those other frozen conflicts that can explode at any moment. China, Taiwan, Russia, Ukraine. Well, that one already happened. India, Pakistan, and so on. Everywhere the same logic. I can't stand you, but I can't destroy you, so we're going to annoy each other for decades. For what's next? We can expect this little game to continue for a long time. Iran will keep developing its military and nuclear capabilities. Israel will keep bombing them preemptively, and neighboring countries will keep serving as playgrounds. The spectacle of modern geopolitics. The only thing that could change the game? If civilian populations on both sides get fed up with living under permanent threat and pressure their leaders to find a way to coexist. But considering the state of democracies on both sides, we might be waiting a long time. If this little lesson on the art of turning a political disagreement into an existential crisis made you think about our collective ability to complicate our lives, you know what you have to do. Subscribe so we can continue dissecting together the wonders of our complicated era. Because honestly, the show's just getting started. Next time, we're going to look at another crazy story making headlines. And believe me, it's heavy stuff. Because apparently, humanity still has plenty of creative ways to get itself into trouble.